one of the nicest people that I've met in this area too. Where did life begin for you, Daurine? Where did this journey start?
So I was born in Beirut, Lebanon, uh, before I moved to France and then to Gainesville in November
Wow.
2006. So yeah, I traveled.
We'll touch into some of those things.
Sure,
That'll be
yeah,
fun to find out.
absolutely.
Where did your first experience with leadership come in? Where did you really start learning that? And what was the leadership thoughts like in Beirut?
So my dad was in the army, so we were very, he was a good leader in the house, very disciplined, very, structural. And then for myself, I used to be a teacher.
Okay.
That helped me a lot as well to be in a leadership position in class and, with my students, with other coworkers. So I think my leadership skills started when I used to be a teacher.
That's an interesting, your journey to be a teacher. You went to college
Yeah.
early in your life. I mean, you were young, 17,
Yes,
18, when you went
17.
off to college.
Yeah.
Yet that wasn't in Lebanon. Where did you go to get your education?
So I started in Lebanon. So my background is in French literature and language. After that, I went to France to pursue more education. I was working on my PhD at that time when I met Freddie and
That's-
before I moved here.
And
Yeah.
Freddie is, for people that may not know, your husband
Uh-huh.
and entrepreneur,
Yes.
and it's kind of two entrepreneurs going in the same direction but parallel in the world.
And life. Yeah, maybe that's why we met.
So you were in France.
Mm-hmm.
You had your master's in French literature, and you
Mm-hmm.
were teaching.
Yes.
What was that difference like? What were some of the things in France that you learned about literature and I mean about leadership when you began that teaching journey?
I was young when I first started teaching. I really like my students were almost my age. So I taught in high school and in college at really early age. And I'm very grateful for those experiences that I was able to do. Uh, Having students kind of really close to your age and making sure you are putting some limits, between being friendly with them and being a teacher, being instructor. There are so many different thoughts and ways that you need to see how to handle yourself because they want to be your friend.
Yeah.
It's like they want to joke around. They want to, I was like, no, we have to go this way. And this is how, the structure is or discipline. So I think it all started of how I handled myself in a classrooms with those young kids,
How
which
did
I
you learn
love,
that process?
which I love. And some of them, we still talk and they still check on me after maybe 20, 25 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you learn that process? Was it hit and miss, or did you have a mentor that really guided you in that area?
I think it was more hit and miss. You learn from your experiences, and also I had a very good professor. So I was working on my master with, on my what you call dissertation book, whatever that is, with my professor. And she was my mentor. She is the one who helped me to get into college and help her teaching some classes at early age. So she inspired me, she motivated me, she helped me a lot in my career.
We see that in corporate America today, where, and you hear it, you've been helping me in the Dale Carnegie classes for the last couple of classes, and you've been around it now for 4 sessions in a row. And we hear it in the classroom
Yeah.
where people try to find that balance between being friendly with their team and being that leader. What advice would you give to people that are trying to balance that?
The advice would be try to balance, right? I mean, it's hard because sometimes you'll see I get very, friendly with some of the students, and then I was like, okay, I really have to set more limits, and for myself, not for them. But I really think being friendly while being very disciplined and set limits helped a lot the other person. Uh, it's just they can trust you more. They can, you can inspire people in so many different ways. And being friendly with them and be able to share or let them share their experiences or their thoughts or their struggles or whatever it is, just help that connection and that bond.
That's an interesting, sidebar to that from the standpoint that it is difficult. I mean, and a lot of people are elevated from the ranks to a leadership role. Yeah. You're in the real estate world. What company do you work with, and how do people reach you if they have a house they want to buy or sell or want to just talk to you about real estate?
Sure. So I got my real estate license in 2007, and I work with Coldwell Banker M.M. Parrish. I've been with them for a long time. The easiest way to reach me would be my cell phone number. It's a 352-562-1411. If you have any questions, any advice, tips, feedbacks, I'll be more than happy to help.
Maybe we can get that into the comments section, get your phone number into that so people could have it there. You're relaxed, you're having fun. What Spurrier's Gridiron Grill? This is part of your world here. How do you like being part of the first podcast
here?
coming
Yeah,
from?
I'm very honored to be the first one with you here. Yeah,
incredible facility, and we have
it is.
have all these helmets behind us, and it's great to talk about leadership here because you're immersed in the leadership.
World.
And what an incredible man as far as the leadership, that he's set forward. Going back, when you left France, you met a businessman. We're not going to go into that. They're going to have to come to a Dale Carnegie class to hear that story. Okay, is that fair?
Yeah.
You came to America. How long had you been speaking English when you came here?
So in Lebanon, we are mostly bilingual or trilingual at least. So my second language was the French, and then the third one was English. But I'll tell you, I never liked English at school.
Okay.
So I was just like, oh, I would never need it. I would never use it. I really don't want to put any effort into it. So I was just focusing on my French literature and language, which I loved. But you never know what life takes you, right? So when I first came here, I spoke a little bit of English.
Okay.
So I knew some. So it's not like I started from zero. So yeah, I could understand. I mean, I couldn't really have a long conversation with someone, but I knew some English, yes.
And when you came here, French literature went to the side.
Yes.
As far as your doctorate and everything that you were pursuing. And you found yourself in Gainesville, Florida, working for a company which was
Domino's Pizza.
Domino's Pizza.
Time.
And you were in the HR department.
Yes.
And you and I have shared some stories at times about that difference in the communication and what some of the challenges were. And people would get rude at you because... Talk about that, and because that goes right with leadership and how you got through that.
And I wish I had that Dale Carnegie class at that time, to be honest, because I think I would handle those situations way much better than I did 15 years ago. So I remember, I think one story, I don't know if I told you that, and this is the one that you are referring to. So I started at Domino's at the office in maybe February 2007. So I was here for a few months when I started there. So I got a phone call one time. So I was the office manager at that time. And then I answered. And that person on the other line, he's like, how about you go and learn how to speak English before you answer a phone call? And I swear it took me, I cry sometimes when I remember that. It took me maybe 3 weeks before I could touch the phone again. I will get all the phone goes to my voicemails, take notes, give them to Freddie. I was like, you need to follow up with these people. I'm not calling, I'm not answering, I'm not talking to anyone. It was very tough. It was a big struggle. It was.
And you had a lot of individuals that were working for you, 13 stores or whatever, 13 locations that you had. There was a lot of people, so there was many different interactions
Yes.
that you were challenged with.
Yes. So, it took me a long time to be able just to have a confidence and be comfortable with my accent, with my English, just be able to communicate with other people. At the end of, we were in 2015, we had over 300 employees. Wow. I was the HR person at that time. I loved working with our employees. I missed those times a lot. It was very interesting. I learned so much being at the office at Domino's. More than I could ever imagine.
We had an interesting thing happen in the class, which you were in the Dale Carnegie class.
Yes.
Being an instructor for Dale Carnegie, we have graduate assistants, and Daurine has been helping me out the last couple of classes as a graduate assistant, and one of the best I've ever had. Just has really organized the room real well. We were having one of our students give a talk, and he talked about an inspirational moment in his life when it was a day that he had a very tough day. It was just the day that he had to move out of the house when he was getting divorced. And he took his kids to a Domino's. He had no clue that the owner of the Domino's was sitting in the room, and he told the story of this young lady that just made him feel so special. What was that like to you, sitting in the room and hearing that story, knowing it was one of your stores?
I know. I was very proud. We were always proud of all our employees, managers, supervisors. We had a really good training program, and everyone worked really hard. It was a proud moment, and I went and talked to him after he had told the story. It was amazing. You don't see that happening very often at all in any business, not just especially in the pizza business. Yeah. To take the kids and make them do their own pizza and help them put a smile on their faces, that was amazing.
And to make Dad feel that much better, it gave him an opportunity to get his mind away from what was that? And she had no idea what he was going through.
Yeah, no.
It was just one of those special moments. Yeah. And that says a lot about the leadership that you and Freddie both live on a daily basis, is that you create those atmospheres that people can excel in. Because there's a lot of leadership that we put restraints on individuals. You can't do that, you can't do that. And it doesn't give them the opportunity to grow. And you developed that style that gave people the opportunity to grow and collaborate with other individuals. What was that? Do you continue to do that today in your real estate world, or?
I worked with Freddie for 15 years, 10 years, whatever those, I can't count anymore. I learned a lot from his leadership. He is a model for our kids, for his family, for the community. And I'm very lucky to be able to have worked with him and learned so much. He's the one who talked to me about Dale Carnegie since he met me. And then 15 years later, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. He's amazing, and we are, as his family, we are very proud of him. Do I use those in my real estate? Absolutely. In my career right now? Absolutely. Because it's like dealing with so many different employees. You never know what they went through that day, what's their struggles, what are their challenges, what's their background. Mm-hmm. And the same with real estate. When you meet a client, whatever, it's a buyer or seller, you don't know how was their day. You don't know what kind of, challenges they are going through. So you really have to be thoughtful and careful when you talk to or when you deal with clients.
You have that ability in the real estate world and in your charity work too, where people are attracted to you from the standpoint of you make them feel at ease. What is the secret for people to be able to communicate that way, where you never meet a stranger? What is that way to communicate that you utilize? What goes on in your mind?
I think it's just a character. It's a personality. There is really no secret. It's just how you are really thoughtful when you meet someone and you really listen. And this is one of the Dale Carnegie principles. Just listen, smile. I think this is one other really big principle that I used before, but I'm really more aware of it when I use it right now after the Dale Carnegie. It's just, if you just look at someone and you smile, that changes a whole. Yes.
That's a
I think,
huge.
Yeah. So let's say the secret is the smile.
Because people, they're nervous when they meet somebody for the first time, and a smile can be inviting. It can be calming. That helps open up that communication. It's very important in your world. Who are some of in the real estate world, what were some of the individuals that really helped you in a leadership way through, not necessarily just in the real estate world, but who are some of those individuals that have been help shaping your leadership style?
Sure. So the first person that comes to my mind is my mentor in real estate, is Rana Schaefer. She's a good friend. She's a good mentor. She's been doing real estate for so long. So when I first joined Coldwell Banker, I did reach out. I called her, say, hey, this is me. I just started. I heard a lot about you. You're, a superstar, one of the top agents here for so long. So I would like just to have a talk with you. And we met for lunch and we talked. And since that time, I call her every single day. I do.
That is.
And also I need to give credit to my broker, Jay Parrish and Mike Kitchens. They are there all the time. Anytime I text, email, midnight, morning, it doesn't matter. They do answer very quickly. And I really appreciate that. They helped me a lot.
How about some of those leaders that, I don't want to mention any names, but what were the traits of the leaders that slowed life down or made life difficult? What were some of those things that you observed? What are the things that those people do that we can learn from not to do ourselves?
I think one of them is just being honest, being direct. You don't want to hear. You want to hear the truth. You don't want to hear what you think it's good to hear. So I think this is one of the most important character in leadership. One of them is my husband. Yeah, you ask him a question, he'll tell you
the answer, no matter what it is, blunt.
It doesn't matter how I felt about it, what I think, he's going to tell me that, and I have to deal with it. So
there's no cushion to that.
Yeah, sometimes, it's good, it's challenging, but I learned, just be direct, don't. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
You don't have to mention names on those things.
No, I didn't mention his name.
You mentioned that you reached out to the lady that became your mentor. That's been a style of you. You have not been an individual that wants to sit still.
Yeah.
You educate yourself. What drives you? What drives you to continue to learn?
What drives me? I want to be successful. I don't like being just average. I like to just do it, commit 100%. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, whatever it's, a hobby or a business or a career, or it doesn't matter. I just like, I'm in it.
And
I'm
you
100%.
Surround yourself with those type of individuals too.
I do, yes.
Not many people that I have met that have been around you are negative.
Because I learned that the hard way. It is very important to surround yourself with people who just want the best for you. They want to see you successful. They want to just help you to be successful as well. It's not easy to find those people.
No,
Yeah.
that's definitely not. Now, we have another Dale Carnegie class coming up in September 21st,
Okay.
which, not okay. You'll be a part of that one too as you're organizing the graduate
I,
assistants. When you got that opportunity to work in the back of the class and you're balancing those principles and talks, and what was that like from a leadership? Because you really, I mean, you took over that class. I want you to know that was your class, and those individuals in the back that you work with, Chris Qualman, Jennifer,
Johanny.
Tiner, and Johanny Lang, those individuals were part of your team, and I've never seen something as coordinated as that. What did you do to prepare for that, and how did you execute that?
Well, you helped me a lot, so you know that. I
Wow.
don't know. If you didn't know, now you know. It was a lot under your leadership, which is, I truly appreciate that as well. I think it was mostly communication between all of us, how we prepare for that class. We knew who's gonna do that talk, who's gonna do what. So it was mostly communication between all the graduate assistants that helped all the students at that time.
So it's the upfront organization, proper communication,
And execution.
and then putting the plan together and executing it, which works in other organizations too. I'm sure you do similar things in the real estate business,
Yes,
that
I
you
do.
plan ahead and get that done. You continue your education. You've hired coaches. You've done different things. And you say you want to be successful, but there's something beyond that. What really drives that you're always seeking that next level?
Because I always think I can do better. I've never, and I think you
Yeah,
mentioned that
yeah.
one time to me. You're never satisfied. You always want more. You always want to do better. You always want to push yourself, and that is correct. I do push myself a lot. I learned how to give myself credits from time to time. I didn't used to do that. I'm very hard on myself.
Yes.
But it's okay.
You don't beat yourself up as much as you used to. That was one of the things
Yes.
that when you and I first met and we were going through that, that was a big challenge. Let's talk with Dancing with the Stars. I mean,
Oh.
not just this real estate agent extraordinaire, not just this graduate assistant who's developing a huge skill of public speaking, but you also got involved with some charities, and part of that was through Dancing with the Stars. How did you
Yeah.
get involved in that, and then what was that process like for you?
So I got a call from the chair of the Dance Alive, and they asked me if I would be willing to be one of the contestants. And of course, without thinking, I was super excited. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Not knowing, I didn't even think about it, not knowing what to expect, what I'm gonna do, nothing. But I thought it was a good way to push myself out of my comfort zone and do something I've never done in the past. And it was a wonderful experience, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. If I can do it again, I'll do it. But it was an awesome experience. Yes.
Now, not only do you work and all the things in charities, but you're also a mom. You have two
Yeah.
young boys,
Yeah.
Danny and Ronnie. And what did they think of mommy out there dancing in that?
Oh my gosh, they were absolutely my biggest fans. They loved, when I picked the song, I did share with them. When I picked my dress, they were the first people to know every step. They saw all my moves, all my dances. So I was like, give them here and there some, ideas what mommy's doing. They were my biggest fans. They were super excited. They were super supportive. they're awesome.
Some of our greatest leaders, some of them don't even work. They're moms or dads that are at home and taking care of their kids. You work in charities, you work here, you work there, you do real estate, you're on the road, you're active in so many areas. How do you balance that mom? In a short period of time, share with us how you balance that.
So I'm with my kids like in the morning a lot. With being a real estate agent, it's very flexible. So during summertime, I was able to be around them, with them a lot. So that really helps. So when they go to school, they go all day. So I have the opportunity to do whatever I want to do during the day, with them all night in the evenings. So we kind of have our routine and schedule. So they know mom has to work some weekends, a lot of weekends. So they do understand and they do appreciate, all the hard work what their mom and their dad do every single day. And we thrive to be their models all the time. So I think it's working.
Daurine, one thought, one line that you would give to our audience of how you feel leadership is.
Leadership is communication. I know it's very easy to say it. Sometimes we think we do it, but you have to be really aware how you communicate with other people.
Awesome. I appreciate you being on the show
Thank
today,
you.
and I welcome you back.
Yeah.
And talk about some other things. This beautiful Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, where we're coming to you live from today. This is MotivationU the Podcast. I'm Bob Ganzak. We'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes with Jennifer Meisenhelder. Interesting story, another interesting story that you'll love.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Hello, Bob Ganzak for the Dale Carnegie course. Because of the great strength that we've had in the last couple of classes here, we are having another Dale Carnegie class starting September 21st, Tuesday night, the 21st, from 6 until 9:30 at Hotel Indigo. It's one of those things that's going to change your life. It's going to really give you the tools where you can improve at business, in your relationships, just in your love of life. So you will be able to sign up at jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com, find courses, find the one that is for September 21st in Gainesville. Hotel Indigo, 6 to 9:30. 8 weeks in a row, incredible energy, atmosphere. You'll love it. Sign up today for the Dale Carnegie class. Thank you.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Welcome back to MotivationU the Podcast, live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Have you been here yet for?
No, this is my first time. I'm really struck by the interior design. It is amazing.
It's
really
beautiful.
love it in here. Yeah.
My guest, Jennifer Meisenhelder. Jennifer, what is your exact title at the University of Florida?
I am Director of Utilities. I'm over production, which includes thermal systems, chilled water, steam, as well as a wastewater treatment plant.
We'll get into some of that leadership. Where did life start for you? Where were you born, brought up, and cut your teeth on leadership? Where was that?
Gotcha. Well, my father is a mechanical engineer and built very large power plants, and it took about 18 months plus or minus to build those. So we bounced around a lot. So I was born in Massachusetts, but I haven't returned there. Went on to Mississippi, Florida, Kentucky, Delaware, Tennessee, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. Then I hit 14 and got into high school, and I finished high school and college in Pennsylvania.
My kids are the same way. In the radio business, we moved a lot, and I always ask them, like, where's your hometown today? I think they refer to Ocala as their hometown because that's where they graduated from high school. Yeah, they were born in Lansing, Michigan, and then moved here, Wisconsin. But I think they're the same way. It's where that high school was. What were some of the leadership traits that you adopted as a young person? What was it? Competitive? What was it like in your home that you picked those things up?
I would say, my father would always come home with these stories of the craziness of construction and, how he would have to use diplomacy to bring two partners together. And in fact, he has this funny little coy expression that, diplomacy is the art of telling someone to go to Hades is in a way that they look forward to the trip. So I would hear some of that. I also think that maybe being adaptable from, moving around so much. I mean, I was always had the wrong accent. I always was either a year ahead or a year behind. And so I had to be different people before I really found out who I was. And I still use that because sometimes what people need from you as a leader varies from person to person and situation to situation. And the more experiences that you have to kind of meet them where they are, the better.
I see that with people. Sometimes we try to fit in.
Right.
And so we start changing ourselves to try to be what the in crowd is.
Right.
And when we realize that if we just become who we are,
right,
that we'll fit in better. So that was part of your challenge in that area.
Yeah, the last place that I went to school in Pennsylvania, I had tried on all these different personalities. None of them really worked.
I like that, tried them on.
Yeah, and I just decided, you know what, I give up. I don't care what people think about me. I was a teenager at that point, a little bit rebellious. I'm like, I'm just going to be who I am, and that's how I'm going to go about life. And to my amazement, all the acceptance that I had been looking for by trying on all these different personalities, that was the personality that people reacted to best. And it stayed with me to always be true to myself, to my life values, and don't water down or kind of abbreviate yourself.
That's great advice to all of us. Right there is to be who you are. You're unique. Be that person. You ended up going to Penn State. Is that what you got your undergrad from? Was Penn State?
Correct. Yeah.
Now you lived in Pennsylvania, so there was probably some drive to that. But was there something else that made you seek out Penn State?
So it was really funny. Before I found engineering and environmental studies, I thought I was going to be an art major. That's where my proclivities were, and I was just kind of going that way. And I went to go visit somebody at Penn State at the main campus, and I didn't really have a full-formed idea of who or what I wanted to be. And all these people were doing their Northeast walk, like from point A to point B. They had a place to go.
Okay.
And I was like, I want that. I didn't know exactly what that was, but I wanted a place to go and be in quick clip to get there. And so then I kind of rearranged everything to go to Penn State. submitted my application, didn't get accepted, was absolutely mortified. Approached the dean of the program I wanted to go in, had a meeting with it. My dad came with me, and they rearranged my application so I could start that summer. So in a way, I kind of talked my way in.
Well, I don't remember the name of the city that Penn State is in. What is
State College.
State College.
Yeah.
It's like, if I've never been there, but if I recall, it's like in the middle of nowhere.
It is. And in fact, it has a lot of similarities to the University of Florida in the fact that it's a huge land-grant university, massive campus, on both are about 2,000 acres, I believe.
Wow.
Don't quote me on the Penn State one.
Okay.
The University of Florida is right. And a huge magnet. Like the town and the university are intricately, combined, just like it is here in Gainesville.
And your degree was in?
Environmental resource management with a minor in engineering.
And then you went on to get your
Master's degree at the Technical University of Denmark, right outside of Copenhagen.
How did that come about? Tell me about that.
So I had done all this bouncing around, and then my junior year in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania, did a 3-week abroad with my German class. And we went to all these different places, as much as you could cram in 2 weeks. And people, some people were like, okay, I've done Europe, check, which is fine. For me, I was like, I want more, I want to go back. So then when I was at Penn State, I went to the Queen's University of Belfast. I loved that. And then I just loved traveling. And so I found out about the program, free master's program at the third best engineering school in Europe. Applied, and they took me in, and it was great. It was a wonderful experience.
In looking at your resume and some things that other people have written about you, you had some travels to a lot of different countries. You were seeking what in those? Was it just travel, or was it some education and other things that were going on in your world?
I think that it's really fascinating that even though we're all human beings and share a great deal of stuff, there are these nuances that happen when you go to another country that makes you think about your own life and your own culture differently. Okay. And so I love the experience of seeing those things with completely, new eyes, and then it allows me to come home and see my own culture through new eyes. But you really need that comparison, and not to mention, I love the adventure of traveling places. Yeah.
Okay, you hit the nail right on the head there. You went and observed things. What type of different leadership styles do you see when you go to these different countries that you bring back, and how are we different or similar in America when it comes to leadership?
Wow, that is a really good question.
Okay.
I think it really has to do with the culture itself. I would tell you that in Britain and the United Kingdom, there's probably more cultural similarities to how we interact with each other, and kind of the expectations. And I mean, there's definitely differences too, don't get me wrong, but when you compare that to a social democracy, which is what Denmark is, they have something called the Janteloven, which means that it loosely, I'm butchering this, but at a fundamental level, all life is equal.
Okay.
So your leadership is more inclusive because it's not quite as singularing out like winners and losers. It's about the collective winning and losing, and what you need to do in order to make the collective get there. So it's a different kind of approach.
And we're kind of shifting that way. We mentioned this in the Dale Carnegie class. Jennifer is a graduate of the Skills for Success program also, was in the class that Daurine was the graduate assistant in. Evan's a graduate, Freddie's a graduate, I'm a graduate. We all work together on these things. Yet in that, we talked about where in America back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, maybe a little bit into the 90s, we were looking for competitive people.
Right.
And they were usually men. And then we started looking for collaborative. And it was important to bring in all different individuals, different races, different genders. And we're building this leadership style now that is more collaborative. Do you see that as similar to what was in Denmark?
I do, actually. And I would say that in Denmark, structure was important. So that's like kind of a top-down type of thing. This is the structure we're going to use. And then it was kind of a bottom-up, like you collectively work to populate that structure. So it's like a combination of top-down and bottom-up leadership styles. And I actually think that I use that a lot in my organization. You know, because I think that if you just get a whiteboard out and say, okay, people, like, tell me what we should be doing, and that's a committee meeting that never has any end, right? But if you provide a little bit of structure and a little bit of vision of this is the way that we want to go, here's some of the milestones that I'd like to see, how do you think we get there? That provides the structure that people can run with.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're like the 5th guest I've had on here. This is our 3rd show that we're doing. And week 1, we had the mayor of Valdosta, Mayor Matheson, on, and he talked about prepare for anything. And then last week, Coach Spurrier talked about listen to your players.
Yeah.
You know, and Daurine talked about that balance between, you know, being a teacher and being a friend because you're the same age. How do you balance that? You're a leader, yet you connect with people so well.
Oh, thank you. Literally, I have really great people that are worth listening to. You know, I think that we can all think that we know what the individual roles of our organization are and what they do, but you're not living it. You're seeing it from a limited viewpoint, and not only are you not seeing things from their viewpoint, you also don't have the same history, because maybe you're dealing with a mechanic who's been here for 30 years that have heard things over and over again, but yet hasn't seen things change. So you don't have their perspective unless you ask them about it, unless you hear what they have to say and really hear what they have to say. And I kind of see that analytically as data collection. It's not platitudes. I'm not, asking their opinion to make them feel good. Although that's a nice benefit. I'm trying to figure out where the holes are so that we can fill in those gaps.
Okay. If you have a question for Jennifer, feel free. Just write it down in the comment section, and we'll post it here in the room. We'll get your question onto the air. Very background engineering, total engineering, the way you are, the way you kind of run your life, and you see that engineering. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of engineers, which is really a lot of fun.
I'm sorry.
How did you mix rugby into this?
Oh, well, that was like literally the first and only time I've had love at first sight. At Penn State, my roommate kept disappearing from 5 to 7 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. She wouldn't tell me what she was up to, which I found very suspicious. And I finally found out that she was going to rugby, and I had no idea what it was. So I went and looked, and I was watching tackling and rucking and mauling, and I was like, ooh, I could do that. Moving so much, I didn't really have a sport. I was too late to the game. I did have a background in ballet, which actually bodes well for rugby. But when I saw that, and I'm so glad I did, because I think that studying like projects expand to the time that you have.
Yes.
So by having that structure of Monday, Wednesday, and then being gone for the weekends for tournaments, when I was at class, I had to hear things the first time. I had to get it the first time. There was no, I'll do it later. And I really wanted the university experience academic-wise, but I wanted the rugby experience just as much.
Now, was it a club sport? Was it a university sport?
It was and is a club sport. Penn State is a leader in rugby and continues to be so. And in fact, there was a player on the Olympic team that's Penn State, and the national team often has a number of Penn State players.
For people that don't know what rugby is, because it's not something that's totally common in our country, and especially now as preseason football is kicking off and the balls kind of look the same, and we're sitting in front of one of the most revered sports people in our lifetime, and this museum to him. Explain what rugby is in a short period of, how would you tell somebody that doesn't know?
I would say that, once upon a time, American football was rugby. It was fundamentally changed right after like 1907, when somebody, instead of passing the ball backwards, took the ball and passed it forwards. And that's what changed the nature of the game. Some of the other similarities is when you have a touchdown in football, that actually comes from rugby, where when you go across the goal line, you have to touch the ball down. So that's another kind of ode to rugby. Offense and defense are on at the same time with rugby. 2 40-minute halves, limited substitutions, and a 5 to 10 minute halftime break. Okay. Yeah.
Do they, when everybody gets into that, what they call a scrum, or is that planned out, each one, and what's going on inside there? What are people saying to each other? That you can say.
I was going to say that. So a scrum happens as a way to restart the ball after a minor infringement. And basically the ball's you're not able to touch it after it's being fed into the scrum. And the two groups of people are pushing so that the ball comes out the back side so it can be fed to the offensive line. Okay. So that's the purpose of it. What goes on in there depends very much on the team, and I think I'll keep that to myself.
That's fair. That's fair. Now, it wasn't just playing. You coached it. One of my graduates in Lake City, Noah Walker, I always knew when he was going through class he was on a rugby team, and then I find out from him that you were one of his coaches. Yeah. How did that happen?
So Carrie O'Malley, who is a wonderful coach, and also I used to play with her at the University of Florida kind of women's team way back in the day, more than 10 years ago. She invited me to help out. And I'd never coached men before, although I had played with men, and I had never coached, period. And it was a wonderful experience. Basically, Carrie said, listen, this is Jennifer. I played with her. She can hold her own. She played Danish men's rugby, so she's tackled people your size. She's here. Let's get on with it. Let's see what she has to do. And then we were just into it. And it was both terrifying and exhilarating. But I love the experience. I've actually used a lot from that experience about getting people in my organization in the right place. Sometimes you can see a good player, but they're just struggling a little bit, and then you give them the right environment, which in rugby is the right position, and I guess in the organization it's the right position, and then all of a sudden you see this flourishing of ability that you kind of thought was there, but
developing it. A question from the internet: do we have a rugby club in Gainesville?
Yes, they're at Gainesville Hogs, and you can put that directly into Google, and you'll be able to find them. There is a touch rugby league. There is a women's team, and there's a 3rd division men's team.
Are you still playing, or
no?
Retired to that.
I have, yeah.
Okay. Let's go to your leadership position now here at the University of Florida. You struggled through the pandemic. I mean, we all did, right? But did you have people on campus working still? Were the students off, or away? How did that work during
Yeah, so everyone in my organization were and are essential employees. Even though people weren't in the buildings, we still needed to produce chilled water so that we didn't have humidity issues. Same thing with steam, and same thing with wastewater. It was actually probably the roughest on my water reclamation facility people, because the plant is set up for 25,000 students and 25,000 faculty, and all of a sudden we had much less than that, and the bugs that do all the work and the degradation of wastewater didn't have anything to, eat, essentially. So I was, approving purchase orders for $5,000 worth of like dog food just to keep the bugs happy in the plant.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was like an old wives' tale of how to keep things healthy when you have high flow but low nutrient loads. And we tried it, and it actually worked. Not my idea, by the way, my superintendent's.
We don't think that waste is needed. We don't. That's not a common thing to walk around the street and say you need that. I mean, because people usually try to get rid of it, right?
Right.
And need it. Does UF have its own utility company?
Have to be careful. Utility department, which we
Okay.
are, but we are not a profit center. So we have a rate-based structure that go to all the constituents on the University of Florida that use our services, but we're not able to turn a profit. It's just what's needed to maintain and operate the facilities.
How many employees in your department?
So I share responsibilities with the director of electrical and water distribution. And between the two of us, we have about 60 plus employees. We have a smattering of project managers, maintenance operators, mechanics, plethora of different.
On a daily basis, what is the biggest challenge in your leadership role as you go through at UF?
I would say that I come from a consulting background, which has a very wide-based triangle organizational structure. It's very lean and mean, and a person makes a decision and it filters through the entire organization, and you can pivot very quickly. Okay. That is not the case at the University of Florida. It is a massive ship. It takes a lot of time to turn. And there are only portions of the ship that you have direct control over. So you have to, interface with a lot of different entities in order to get your work fulfilled. And they all have their own goals and expectations that may or may not, align with yours. So I think just going from a smaller, leaner organization to a very large, sometimes political organization is, I'm still learning lots in that. Exactly.
And it was a pleasure having you in the Dale Carnegie class too. I learned a lot. Everybody in the class learned a lot about the University of Florida from you and other things. You've been involved with a global organization. To be your instructor again, back to Dale Carnegie, in a 2-minute magic formula talk, tell us about that, the water program that you're involved with.
So I was involved with AWWA, which is American Water Works Association, professional network for environmental engineers. They had a not-for-profit sector called Water for People, and basically their idea was to bring sustainable water resources to the developing world in such a way that they weren't needed 10 to 20 years. With a whole bunch of hubris, I went to sub-Saharan Africa, to Kigali, Rwanda, thinking that with my engineering prowess, I was going to, help these people. And instead, what I saw was, evidence of a lot of not-for-profits that got here, put in a well without understanding the regional implications, walked away, only to find out that for half a year that well is underwater, and various other things. And so then I learned that, social infrastructure, or the ability for people to provide for themselves, is way more important and harder to cultivate than the technological solution. The technological solution is easy. It's getting so that you have a group of people to be able to support and maintain and believe in that vision. That's what's needed. And so it completely changed how I viewed environmental engineering, organizational development, everything.
Wow. Dale Carnegie graduate. What principle, I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Yeah.
What principle do you carry with you most of the time that you learned in the class?
Do not condemn, criticize,
Or complain. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still working on that one.
Which is number one, which is a good place to start.
Right.
You
Yeah,
got
it is
another
number
29 after that to do that.
Yeah.
Have you been able to utilize anything in the leadership program to kind of adjust the way you approach people?
I would say absolutely. Particularly not calling out mistakes directly, and taking a little more time to allow them to come to the conclusion of what has happened that may not have been the most ideal. I think that that's the most powerful one for me, because it actually creates less work for you in the long run. When they have an epiphany themselves, it's way more powerful than if you just tell them the lay of the land as you see it. So that's been really illustrative.
That was a huge part of what Coach Spurrier talked about last week too, is getting them involved, getting the team involved, and not shutting them down, and that's really important. I appreciate you being here with us. This is too short of a time between you and Daurine to talk about so much. I mean, we could have a 3-hour show and get that done, but I appreciate you being here. And we would love to have you come back sometime down the road. And if you were to share one thought, just one sentence on leadership with our audience, what would that be? Put you on the spot again.
Yeah, really hear your employees. Be curious about them. Want to know about their daily lives, in and outside of work. At some point, it becomes a people position.
I appreciate that. We're going to end our shows with just kind of a little with storytelling. Storytelling is so big in business. And the other day I was at a stoplight, and there was a car in front of me, and my wife said to me, why are you staring at that car? The car was right in front of me. They were the first car in line, and she said, you should be looking at the traffic. This guy's missed so many places. And I said, yeah, I'm not going to look at that. I'm going to look at the obstacle in front of me, because if I take the eye off the obstacle, I'm going to get upset. If I see that space that he could have gone, I'm going to lose my temper or something like that, and you let your blood boil. Or I'm looking there and I pull ahead and I hit him because he didn't go. And we're like that in life. Sometimes we don't, we get too caught up in the news or something going on in the world that we can't control. And then we lose focus on the things that we can control. And that's a key to what I see is happening in life nowadays, especially with the pandemic. Do you vax? Do you not vax? And everybody's arguing about it. And we're missing the opportunity to live our life every day. Our kids are growing up, and we're missing that because we're so worried about so many other things. So my words to our audience is, focus on the things you can control. And the benefit of that is that you'll live a happier life, and your children will be there that you can watch them grow too. So that's what we'll work on this time. I'm Bob Ganzak for MotivationU, live at this beautiful, beautiful facility, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Come on out for dinner, open Wednesday through Sunday, incredible food, farm to table, everything is just wonderful. For Evan Miller, our wonderful producer sitting here in the corner, from everybody at MotivationU, appreciate you being here. Thank you.